Yes. Yes. By whom? Whose attempt? I understand. Good point. But who's doing it? Who's attempting? Who made? So that implies someone made it up at some point, doesn't it? That's a perfectly fine view, but speak it out. Someone must have decided to say that reincarnation exists. So who are you suggesting said that? But who suggested it? Where did it start? Who said? What are you talking about? Who said? Who said? What? I mean, stop. I'm not interested in belief systems. We're not talking belief here. We're talking reality. If you say mathematics, you're saying somebody invented math. This is a really good point. So you would never say that about mathematics, would you? That someone invented mathematics. They didn't invent mathematics, did they? Ah, there you go. Perfect point. Thank you. You just made the point. Okay. 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 Listen. Shh, shh. I'm answering you. I'm giving you a way of thinking. Good. I'm very happy. The Buddha's saying, okay, we have a thing called botany. Do you agree, like we said here, that botany is a label we give to the way gardens work? Would you call it that? And some clever human beings along the way have, by using their intelligence, have observed gardens and have articulated those laws. Would you agree with that? So you would agree that they didn't just make it up into a belief system. It's a truth, isn't it? That they can prove by showing they've seen what is growing, they've labelled it certain things, and they put it together as a series of laws. Would you agree with that? And you can then learn it yourself and prove it, can't you? So we call that science, don't we? Do you agree with that? Okay, good. Very good. Mathematics the same. Some clever Arab fellow argued with those dumb idiot, Italians where they had their L's and their V's and their X's, and then he came up with the 0 to 9. Look at the genius of that. He didn't make up numbers, did he? There's always, in other words, before we came up with from 0 to 9, if there were 2 oranges on that floor, you didn't know it was called 2, but there always were those 2 oranges, weren't there? So he articulated that law, and it's called numbers. Do you agree with that? That's called mathematics. You agree with that? He didn't make up a belief system, did he? He saw reality and labelled it, and then we can prove it, can't we? Do you agree with this? Buddha's the same. Please wait. Don't just say okay and then leap ahead. You should be shocked by this. So Buddha is a person. Please wait. Let me finish. But you haven't. I've got to finish. Then you have to go back. You're suggesting that there can be belief systems that people have made up, and I agree with you. Buddha would say we made up a creator. He would argue that isn't reality. I'm just telling you his view. I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm trying to work on it. But he would agree with you that a creator does not exist. He would say we've over-exaggerated. He uses the term, for example, superior being. And he would say you, by following the steps that he took, can rid the mind of all the delusions, can develop all your goodness to perfection, and you can become a superior being. And he says, I did this, here's my methodology, and this is something that's natural and real and, goodbye, darling. Bye. See, sweetheart. And it's a doable thing. It's not a belief, it's a doable thing. Then he would say there are some views that over-exaggerate that superior energy and call it a creator. He would disagree with that piece. So he would say that's made up. He would agree with you. But what he is suggesting, what he is saying is real, like botany, like mathematics. And he says, this is what I've done, this is what I've achieved, and here's my methodology. Please let me finish. So, like Einstein tells us that he has discovered that E equals mc squared. He says, here is my methodology. He would not tell us he made it up, would he? He would not say he had a vision of it. He doesn't say he had a dream, and he's not asking us to believe it. He's saying, here's my methodology. Now you've got to go through each of those steps, and you'll prove it for yourself. Buddha's exactly the same. And it's up to you to discover whether it's true or not. We're now communicating. What? No, I'm lost. Sorry, say it again. What? doing it. By doing it. By doing it, yes. You prove it by doing it, yes. So then?
I would like to see it to see how we can prove it the same way
Which? To prove what?
with the reincarnation.
That's all there in the teachings. It's up to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the moment I believe in it, and
No, don't believe in it. No, you don't. No. Stop. No. But no. I won't finish. No, but your words are wrong. You're not saying the right thing. You don't just believe in botany. You don't. You hear the teachings. You hear what the botanist tells you, and you go one step at a time, ticking the box as you go, proving it. Oh, well, he told me that's true so far. Now go to grade 2, grade 3. You don't just believe in botany. You prove it as you go. It's the same here. And if at some point you can prove the botanist is wrong, then you've proven he's wrong. Same with reincarnation. Same with karma. Same with emptiness. Same with mathematics. There is no difference.
so everyone has this God has to experience.
Yes! That's right. But our problem in the West is very fascinating. We'll say, oh, but you can't prove reincarnation. But people have proved relativity. Well, have you proved relativity? No, because someone else has proved it doesn't mean it's right for you. And we don't realize that. We think, oh, good enough that Einstein's proved it. No, it's a belief for you until you've proven it. And Buddha's saying you can prove it. Whereas this is the point about, I'm not being critical. Other religions, creative religions, you can't prove it. Because that's saying you're like God, and that's the worst sin possible. So you must believe it. And that's what we think of as religion. Do you understand my point? Whereas Buddha says it's natural law. There's no concept for the Buddha other than anything you can prove. But you've got to go one step at a time, baby. And you're the boss. As Dalai Lama said, if you go along and you can prove at some point what Buddha's wrong, then he's not going to be upset. You just say, thanks, Buddha, bye, and keep moving. Do you see my point? It's a bit of a shock to us because we have an assumption because reincarnation is something you can't see with your eyes, therefore can't be proved. But that's a false assumption. When you've got single point of concentration, you can prove reincarnation easily. You can see your own past life right there. It takes you a couple of years. Won't take you long. What?
Trying to get it from
I know, exactly.
the point of view of mind and matter and how this makes sense if you follow how your mind actually, like how your body and mind disintegrates and well,
Your mind doesn't disintegrate. Your mind continues. Buddha's view, you see, in order to understand acupuncture, you've got to take a series of assumptions. You've got to take a series of hypotheses, don't you? You know, if you've learned allopathic medicine all your life, and you hear about these weird wacko people who put needles in people and talk about meridians, you've never heard of such a weird thing. So you've got to take it as a given in the beginning before you study it, don't you? You've got to sort of kind of hold your breath and say, okay, let's take the view that it could be true. Then you start to prove it. But you don't have to. You can't fit it into allopathy. What do you call it? You can't fit the different. The views are going to be coherent in themselves, within their own sets of rules, don't they? And all you can do is do that. It's very methodical, very and then you start with believing in it because you've checked up that these acupuncturists seem to be good people. So you've got to start with a hypothesis, but then you've got to engage in it where you now become an acupuncturist. And now it's real for you. But we mostly don't do that. We just accept that other scientists have proved things. We think that's good enough. That's just intellectual laziness. I mean, you understand? And throughout the history, millions of people have proved reincarnation by practicing. We just say, oh, it's not possible. We're so arrogant in our culture, you know. Not saying you're arrogant, just saying we are generally. There's so much hubris in our materialist world. Are you good? Thank you very much. You Swiss Germans are nice people. Not Swiss Germans, you're Swiss. Oh, you're Swiss. That means you're Swiss people, that's right. I get confused where I am. Yes, sweetheart. Oh, isn't there really? Oh my God. Go on. Yes. No, not at all. Depends on the person. Some people who've got sharper tendency might get emptiness first. Other people with a bigger heart might get compassion first, but you've got to have both together. And compassion won't really become powerful until you realize emptiness. Because there's always going to be an intrinsic me having compassion for intrinsic you. When we realize emptiness, it'll be powerful compassion. It'll be as if we're the same, you know. Yeah. That's the 4 opponent powers, yes. My coffee's, the water's cold, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, no, okay, purification is very practical. If we understand how we create karma, we can understand how we purify it. So let's look at how we create karma. It's very practical. So, okay. Your mind is the main one. Intention, the word intention, not meaning good intention, but meaning I will, volition. This is the start of the entire process of creating karma. So as Lama Zopa says, as a saying in Tibetan, everything exists on the tip of the wish, the thought, I will. So even by walking out that door, it has to be the thought first. I will walk out the door. The trouble is, though, most of what we do is programmed. So we do everything automatically. We're 99% unaware of what we're doing because we're programmed in doing it, mentally and physically. So, but the process of creating karma is it has to be the mind involved. I'll use this example. An action of generosity, a complete action of generosity, which is one that sows a seed and puts it into your bank vault that becomes a seed that will ripen in the future as one of your future lives. A complete action of morality, such as, say, generosity, there have to be 4 things in place. There has to be an object, a person. Then there's your mind involved in doing it. And there's 2 parts there. Intention, I will give 20 francs. And the motivation is compassion. There's 2 things. Intention and motivation. 3rd, you give the 20 francs. 4th, the person accepts it. That's a complete action of generosity. An action of killing would be the same. There's a being. There's an intention, I will kill the mouse. Motivation, anger, how disgusting a mouse being in my kitchen. The mind involved. 3, you do the action. 4, dead mouse. So that's a complete action. One is called positive, one is called negative. And the key factor in both of those actions that makes one of them virtuous and the other non-virtuous isn't the giving of the 20 francs, isn't the killing of the action of the killing, it's the motivation of wanting to benefit or wanting to harm. So that one piece in there, that's the key factor, the motivation that impels what we think and do and say. Intention is a decision to do it, but the motivation is what gives the character to the entire action that labels it negative or positive, such that it sows a seed in our bank vault, puts a seed into our good bank vault or our bad one, that will ripen in the future as suffering or happiness. The motivation is the central piece. So this is the point, for example, like I said, about a person can be there and you walk past the homeless person and you even have the thought, I'm not going to give money to that ugly person, but the money drops out of your pocket. But you don't know. So then it is not, but your mind is not even involved. So there's 0 virtuous karma because you didn't intend to do it and because there's no decent motivation. Equally, you can stand on a mouse. The mouse is there, you did the action, the mouse died, but you never saw the mouse. So there's no intention and there can't be a motivation. So the mind involved in what we do is what creates karma. And the key factor in there between intention and motivation, the one that gives it the character of being virtuous or non-virtuous, is the motivation. And as what Buddha's saying is that most of everything that we all do is motivated by attachment. It's completely the default mode. We can have virtue on top of it. We've got some virtuous qualities, there's no question. But what drives us most of the time, because we're not aware until we start practicing, it's to get what I want. We're happy to be kind to people within my getting what I want. I can be very kind to Nina, but if she starts wanting to come home with me every single day and get in my bed and moan and complain, I'm going to get fed up and I'm going to stop having compassion. I'll be compassionate once a day, but when I'm not getting what I want, thank you very much. So motivation for most of us is attachment. It sounds a bit depressing. That's what practice is, to change our motivation. So motivation's the key. And that's what then sows the seeds in our mind. And then they're going to ripen either as a rebirth, as a habit to keep doing it, as an experience similar to it, or as an environmental result. So that, as Lama Zopa says, that entry-level junior school grade 1 practice, at least refrain from the 10 non-virtuous actions. Buddha exhorts us to don't kill, steal, or create sexual misconduct. And then don't lie, badmouth behind backs, use abusive language, or rabbit on about nothing. 7 little baby things. And the last 3 are the beginnings of working on our mind. At least refrain from the grossest levels of attachment, which is like intense craving, the grossest levels of anger, which is like ill will, wanting people to suffer, and the grossest levels of ignorance, like fundamentalism and narrow-mindedness. They're the 10 little instructions that Buddha would exhort us to abide by as a starting point. That's the first level of practice. Control your body and speech and begin to control your mind. Now, though, what about all the billions of seeds we've already planted that we're carrying with us in our bank vaults from life to life? We've got to start putting atomic bombs under them to prevent them from ripening as our suffering. This is the next level of practice, and that's called purification. And it's very practical, because the mind creates karma, so the mind purifies karma. There's 4 main little steps in it. The 4 R's, easy way to remember. We do this at the end of the day. Lama Zopa says we're insane not to do this practice every day. So the first step is to acknowledge, I badmouthed Tony, I kicked the dog, I lied, whatever baby things we do. You know, if you killed your mother as well regret that one. The first step is regret. You own the fact that you did something. They use the analogy of having taken poison. The good analogy. If you've eaten poison, because you know the meaning of poison, you know it's going to cause you future suffering, you instantaneously will deeply regret, oh my God, what an idiot, I can't believe I've taken poison. Quick, what can I do about it? That's the attitude of regret. So regret isn't guilt, like I'm a bad person. No. I killed, I stole, I lied, I did this, did that, cheated, whatever. And you think of today, then you think of this life in general, and then you can say, and whatever I've done since beginningless time that has harmed sentient beings, that is sowing seeds in my mind that will ripen as my suffering, I regret from the depths of my heart. Why? Because I don't want suffering. It's like compassion for yourself. It's like you don't want diabetes, so you regret eating that sugar. You don't want cancer, so you regret smoking those cigarettes. It's that attitude, not guilt, not beating yourself up, but intelligence, self-respect. That's regret, first step. Then second, whom can I turn to? Where's the doctor? So Buddha's our doctor here. We rely upon him, not to forgive us, which is the Christian teaching, very different. We rely upon the doctor, Buddha, whose medicines we will use ourselves to heal ourselves. Then the second part of this section, in the second part, when it's reliance, we then have compassion for those we've harmed. I then think of Tony and how I harmed him with my harsh speech, and have compassion and then regret for his sake, and then everybody else I've harmed. And then if we're brave enough, we can have compassion for those who've harmed us, because they will suffer in the future. Then the third step, you take the remedy. So you can have, Buddhism's got a whole medicine cabinet of remedies. And even every day, they often call this one applying the antidote. Well, if I'm regretting killing, an antidote is to help people, to save lives. Every day I should do that. If I'm regretting lying, an antidote is to speak the truth. But here, and we do this in a formal meditation practice, we would do it as a meditation. We visualize a particular Buddha, Vajrasattva, above our crown. We'd visualize nectar. We're just using visualization, nectar coming, purifying, while reciting a particular mantra. These are said to be very potent meditations, using the Buddha. It gives an extra power. So the third step is you do this meditation, and that's the antidote, that's the remedy. And the fourth step, the most important, Pabonka Rinpoche says, is the resolve, the determination not to do it again. So you give yourself a timeline. I can't say I won't badmouth Tony every day if I do it every day, but maybe I won't badmouth him for 24 hours. If I can say I'll never kill again, I'll say I'll never kill again. So you make decisions to change. That's when the real change comes. So as Lama Yeshe says, purification is the power of the regret, the ownership, the power of the reliance, the power of the remedy, and the power of resolve. And as he says, we create negative karma with our mind. So we purify it. We create, we create negativity with the mind. So we can purify it by creating positivity with the mind. It all comes down to the mind, And there's no karma that can't be purified, because karma is impermanent. There's no negative action that we can't fix, that we can't change, that we can't purify, provide an antidote to, get rid of, remove from the mind. Okay? That's the essence of it. Yes. As a key factor that determines whether it's negative or positive, what we do. Not even the intention, the motivation. That's right. That's better than nothing. It's perfectly fine. Don't worry about that one. Darling, it's too advanced to do it out of compassion first. That's expecting too much of yourself. That's absurd. You can pretend. We've got to say it. But it's a really intelligent okay, right now, we do everything thinking we're doing it for ourselves, but all we're doing is harming ourselves. So to change to want to do things so you'll get some good results from it, like eating good food so you get healthy, no one criticises you for doing that. They don't say you're selfish. I mean, no one says, you've got to eat good food so you can be helpful to others. That's very advanced. Start with at least wanting to do something useful so you'll get the result. Nothing wrong. My goodness, that's intelligent. Then eventually you add compassion to it. Of course you do. That makes it very powerful. Of course it does, darling. But then we would never want to be angry. If we really realize that anger will cause us suffering, how intelligent that you want to stop being angry because you want to suffer. But we don't even get that much. We're so dumb, And then we feel, oh, that sounds so inferior, like you said. That's really wrong thinking. You've got to start where you're at. Do you understand?
Yeah, I just was thinking there's a difference. It's a little bit better if you do it out of compassion.
No, you're missing the point completely. It's 1,000,000,000 times better. But but how can you just invent compassion? You've got to first recognize this is the whole point about the wisdom wing. You've got to first recognize what's helpful for you. Then you can have compassion for others. You've got to learn nutrition first and see the benefits for yourself. Then you can help others. So, of course, in the beginning, you do it with compassion. But in the beginning, of course, it's phony. But be delighted that your good virtue will bring you good results. That's utterly necessary. In fact, the very first point of Buddha, he says don't kill for your sake, baby. Do you hear? No, we don't hear this point. I'll say it very clearly again. We tend to think I shouldn't kill because I'm naughty and I might get punished, or someone vaguely said I shouldn't do it. That's not enough reason. Jesus says don't kill, and that's okay because God said not to do it. The Buddha says don't kill because guess what? Because you're going to go to the lower realms, you will get killed, you will be harmed, and you'll have suffering. So do you want suffering or don't you? Do you want suffering in the future? I'm asking you a question. Well, then stop killing now. That's Buddha's logic. It is only for your sake first. Then can come compassion. Do you hear my point? This takes a while because his view of karma has got nothing to do with punishment and reward, which is our usual view. So we try to be good girls and we hope someone will reward us. No, you'll be waiting a long time. You reward yourself. We're in charge. This is the point about karma. So you've got to realize it's for your benefit. Don't think it's inferior. It's intelligent. Because the Buddha's point is every millisecond of what we think and do and say brings consequences to me. First step, got to realize that one. Then who in their right mind would want to not practice morality? But we're so addicted to the dualistic view of being a good girl and a bad girl. And that's why if someone sees us do something good, we hope they will reward us. But that's why we want to hide our naughty things, because we don't want to get punished. Well, that's as foolish as thinking that because your doctor told you not to smoke, because you might get cancer, and then you go home and you realise your doctor's not there, so out come the Marlboros. Oh, I won't get cancer because she doesn't see me smoke. Everyone would laugh at you, right? So you realise yourself that it's a natural law that not smoking will help you get healthy. No one thinks that's inferior. Same here. Do you understand? So important. Yeah.
So you say motivation is at the source. There's the bad motivation, which is based on attachment.
But attachment, anger, jealousy, the usual dramas, poor old me, yeah.
There's, let's say, the beneficial motivation for helping others, compassion. Is it the same source finally, or is there?
What do you mean by that? Same source.
Where does motivation come from?
What do you mean by that? Sorry. It's a good question. What do you mean, though? I don't get it.
I mean, I'm motivated to speak now to you.
What, darling?
When I speak to you, there's a motivation that I want to speak to you.
Okay.
Where does motivation come
No, okay. Again, first of all, it's down to the same thing. You walk because you've got the habit of walking. You talk. But just to say you talk because you want to talk is more than that. If I'm all needy and love and wanting you to love me, I'm going to talk to you because I want you. It's attachment completely because I want you to see me and hear me and praise me. That's a rubbish motivation. But the reason if I want to talk to you because I want to help you, that's compassion. It's completely different. But normally we're driven just by attachment and we're unaware of it. We don't even notice why we do things. So we've got to start changing it and being conscious and changing our motivation and therefore changing our behaviour. Maybe there's no reason to talk to you instead of wasting your time, So we've got to become conscious and then decide to have a virtuous motivation. Do you understand?
Yes, but I still believe there's something driving that motivation, which comes from our heart or our soul.
But listen. Okay. If you've practiced compassion in the past, it will come naturally as your motivation, won't it? If you've practiced the piano, then you'll be able to play it if you sit at the piano. But if you've never practiced it, you won't be able to play. So if you've practiced compassion, that will be the default view that you'll have. So it comes from practice. Whatever your motivation, you've got to look at what your motivation is. It comes from having practiced whatever it is. If you're a very self-centered person, very attached, very angry, that'll be your motivation. So you've got to look at that and notice it and recognize it and then decide to change it. Motivation is just a thought. But most of the time, like with walking, everything's habitual. We've never even looked at any of this. We just get born in this life and just keep doing it. Like the monkey just has sex because that's their habit. We just fall into habits, you know. Hmm? Yeah, but that's just a way of saying attachment and aversion. Attachment right now is the craving to get what I want every second. Yeah, of course. But I mean, the wish to be happy. If you're a bodhisattva, they also have the wish to be happy, but they know the right method. Of course. So you know that determines the thing you do. You want to be happy, that's why you eat. But if you've got the wrong understanding of nutrition, you always get suffering. So you always want to be happy. Yeah, of course. But you have to have the right method, which is having virtuous thoughts and not having non-virtuous thoughts. It all comes down to being aware and conscious of what's happening in here, and then changing. Do you understand?